I love these chilly early mornings. Buenos dias from somewhere out here in South America. I think I'm going to start calling these Lessons from the Rooftop because, as I said in the last video, I spent 2 years in silence on a rooftop of a hotel where I lived at the beginning of the pandemic, and then for 2 years, doing nothing, not knowing what life was about to be, but knowing that it could not continue to be what it was. I was so miserable in the U.S. For years. I always felt like I was out of place. I would look around at everything and feel like this one does not belong, but I was doing my best to assimilate as much as I could, and we've been so conditioned to assimilate that we have completely forgotten who we are. And that's part of the game, you know? You come here to remember who you truly are so that you can stop assimilating. So that's much of what I learned sitting on that rooftop, deciding not to hear any influences from anybody. I wasn't good at taking anything from anybody anyway. You know, some of us just come here that way. And so much of what you'll hear from me, if you haven't paid attention to that already, is that you are an individual. You came here for your own path and purpose. And if you will honor that, then whatever you refer to source as, you know, these words are such effing spells that that we can get hooked up on words without and completely miss meanings and messages, and so whatever you refer to source as, I have come to understand that everything is just energy, and so I don't put as much emphasis on words anymore, and all it does is it shows me all the more how we are so easily divided, and the intention behind the division. And if we won't get a hold of that, then we'll continue to spiral in the direction of the social constructs, which I will not stop talking about. All anybody is ever trying to do is to find their own place and their own peace. For me, that path was personal development, because for as long as I can remember, from being a child, and I mean a child, y'all, I remember being 3 years old and hearing certain things that just didn't make sense to me as a 3-year-old. And this is why I am so big on in saying stop dismissing children when they express who they are and what's important to them, because they're not yet disconnected fully from source. And depending on how you respond to them, then that affects them in different ways, right? For me, it meant, as I was sharing what many around me would consider some strangeness or weirdness, and I'll talk more about that at some point, then it meant shutting down, and it didn't mean that the things stopped happening with me. It meant I stopped sharing them. It meant I learned how to go into a shell and how to be my own best friend and to spend most of my time by myself. And then that was interpreted by others around me as being antisocial, or, you know, staying locked in my room and not being communicative. But when I told you what was going on with me, what I was seeing, what I was hearing, how I viewed things, then you completely shut that shit down. And sometimes would tell me, no, that's just wrong. No. Don't say that. Because your ass was scared. And it was who I was naturally and normally. but it came across to you as strange. And here's the bottom line, y'all. Assimilation is the name of the game. That's what we are all doing until we reach a point where we recognize, as much as I have assimilated, and most people may never use that word, but as much as I try and fit into what these social constructs say and what the people around me say I'm supposed to be, because that's all any of us are doing, at some point you reach a point where you realize you did the best you could in assimilating, and often that still was not good enough. And it's because we didn't come here to assimilate. That's not what this is about. And again, I will continue to say, we have to start viewing life in its totality, in the totality of our full earth span, not life span. Now, what I mean by that is everything, y'all. All of humanity and the full length of it, not lifespans. That's why we can really view things generationally and how things continue to change. But if we look at everything in its full evolution and not in silos, then we can start to have broader perspectives, right? So, the ultimate lesson that I got while sitting on the rooftop for over 2 years in South America is there are only two identities. That's all. And as long as you're going the assimilation route, then that is through social constructs, which is human consciousness. All right? And then there is divine consciousness, which is what I reached sitting on that rooftop. I reached divine consciousness by zooming out from all of the density of the bullshit of trying to assimilate. And I reached who I truly am. And all of us have the opportunity to do that. When you find yourself struggling in all that you've learned, which is through social constructs and what people are telling you is the best way to do things. I did it. My path was personal development. Other people have gotten on other paths to make them feel better about themselves and to assimilate. And I'm telling you, life is about figuring out your way to assimilate and then realize, wait. At some point and through this phase of the whole world evolution, man, that's what this awakening is about. That's why so many people are awakening. It's because it's time for us to do some topsy-turvy on a lot of the things that we've used to assimilate. And in these assimilations for generations now, then a whole bunch of shit is crumbling. And the only way to right this shit, turn this thing right side up. A whole bunch of people think that things are turning upside down. No, they're righting themselves. Okay? So the biggest lesson while sitting on the rooftop is, baby, you've been neglecting your divine consciousness. There are only two identities. That's all. Divine consciousness and human consciousness. Everything you've learned since you got here through assimilation has been human consciousness. And so you got to get to where, and all you got to do to increase in divine consciousness is to make some determinations every day to cut away at the human consciousness. You know how here's the ultimate test to know that you are operating in more human consciousness than you are divine consciousness. Anxiety. What is your nervous system like? Because most people's nervous system is jacked up. Now here I was, the queen of personal development. And as cool as one could possibly be, honey, I had arrived. Or so I thought. Until I left the U.S. and realized just how jacked up my nervous system was. That is the litmus test. Whew, okay, I think I'll put a pin in it right there. We'll talk more about that. See you tomorrow.